Here we go again.
Despite removing 7 capped queen cells 4 days ago, and there's no cells in there,
I don't know if they're moving or staying there.
hive number 1 decided to swarm.
Just have to wait a while.
But
An awful lot of them still in the air.
there's a lot more to this story than meets the eye.
Well, there we go again. Well, they're getting higher.
So I had gone out to the park to do a little lawn maintenance when I noticed some unusual activity at hive number 3. Hive number 3 was our swarm catch from about 5 weeks ago, and it's not unusual for a swarm to supersede their queen. A lot of times it's an older queen that goes with the swarm, and the first thing they do is they supersede her. And when the new queen hatches, there's 2 queens in the hive, and the old queen is either chased out or they fight to the death. But, you know, there's unusual activity at the hive that's very classic, and it looks a little bit like a swarm, but it isn't really a swarm. You can, however, end up with a queen in the air. Now there's hive number 1. This is the one that about 4 days ago we went in and we removed 7 capped queen cells. And, you know, by every respect, you would think this colony would have swarmed, but they hadn't. And the later inspection post-swarm indicated that there was no queen cells in there. However, they caught wind of the fact that there was a queen in the air, and the urge to swarm in them was very, very great. So I watched, and after about 3 minutes of activity on hive number 3, hive number 1 started to participate. And pretty soon it was Niagara Falls. They were just pouring out of there, you know, like a fire hose. And I thought, oh boy. So I ran back to the house and I got the camera. Didn't catch this unusual activity, but it's not actually unheard of. In fact, there's a video on Barnyard Bee's channel, which I'm going to put a link in the description below, where he took a swarm apart and found 9 mated queens in it, which indicates it was a Cascade swarm. You know, one hive started a swarm and other ones started to join in. I mean, a lot of these queens even had the paint out of them, you know, what year that they were from. So watch that video when you get a chance. It's a long video, but it's very entertaining. But, you know, no matter what, we now had a swarm on our hands, swarm number 3 of the season. Sadly for me, these swarms seem to be hanging themselves higher and higher in the trees. I have a 18-foot pole saw that I'm using, and I had to be up on my toes to get this swarm and cut the branches around it. So they're up above 20 feet now. I love these videos of these people that, you know, get a swarm right down on the ground, and they're sorting through it, and they find the queen, and they put her in the cage and all that. But my bees apparently have not watched these videos and think that the place to hide is, you know, 10, 20, hopefully not more, feet up a tree. So it's impossible to just go up and examine them, you know, unless you have like a cherry picker. The most you can do is drop, and I spend a lot of time trying to locate the hive box in the location where I feel that the drop will occur. It's a bit of hit and miss, and it's a little bit more dangerous, obviously, for the queen to come down with a lump of bees. But what can you do? You could either, you know, kiss them goodbye and say, well, you know, go find somebody's mailbox or shed, or you can go out there and try to get them, and I choose to try to get them. I am a bit mystified why they keep choosing this one crabapple tree in the middle of the woods. There's no flat ground around it to put a ladder, so you do what you can. But this is the 3rd swarm that has landed in this particular tree in the middle of the woods. I have no idea why, you know, a crabapple tree would be so attractive to them. But one of the problems is the lower branches are now cut off, so I guess they're just going higher and higher. Well, the time had come to see if my accuracy was good in dropping this swarm in the box. With my fingers crossed, the other hand pretty high on the pole saw, it was time to give it a shake and see what happens.
You know, I think they're going to be prone to stinging, but just never know.
For the most part, I'd say that probably about 75% of them did end up in the box. Don't mind the crazy audio here, but we're just going to fast forward this a little bit. I searched around the ground to see if I could find any clusters of bees that might indicate the queen hit the ground, but they all seemed to be flying back to the box. So I went about cutting the main branch out that they had come off of, which of course released a lot of bees that were still hanging around on there. They smell the scent of where the queen was, and they'll return to that location even if the queen isn't there. So dropping the branch put a lot more in the air. But again, they didn't seem to be clustering on the ground or on another branch or elsewhere. They all seemed to be flying right back to the box, and that's exactly what I wanted to see. With no stray queen or queens on the ground, and the bees basically clustering around the box, it was time to persuade them to maybe go in the box. I mean, it'd be a lot easier to move them if it wasn't just a ball of bees around the box. Best way I've discovered to do this is with a piece of cardboard. You simply go in, you slowly wipe up the sides of the box and try to dump them into the top. With that many bees on the outside, I mean, you can't be sure that you don't have a queen sitting on the outside with them. So if the queen's there, you don't want to squish her. And as for the queen, we don't know what we have here. We don't know whether this was a mating flight turned swarm, whether there was an old queen leaving number 3 that was fertile and would start laying eggs, or whether there was somehow a missed queen in hive number 1. It was awfully coincidental that, we had saw this activity at hive number 3 and then hive number 1 kicked in. That really seems to be more along the lines of what I would call a classic cascade swarm. My post-swarm inspection of number 1 and number 3 didn't really reveal too much. I didn't get too deep into it. The bees were very quiet in both hives. Needless to say, hive number 1 had a lot fewer bees in it than it did earlier in the day or last time I was in there. But the quietness sounds like they're queen right, which is kind of weird. So we're going to let this guy percolate for a week or so, and we'll go in there and see if there's a queen. I did the usual trick of putting a frame of brood into the hive, which serves as an anchor. Now, I took that frame from hive number 1, so there's going to be a few bees that go, wait a second, I was on this comb earlier in the day. How did I end up back here? You can never tell what's going on with bees. It really is part science, part experiment, part science fair project, and not all that much that you can count on, other than generally speaking, they follow certain behavior patterns. But as I say, anytime you have a rule of thumb, the bees will break it. And just a reminder, please hit the like and the subscribe buttons. I mean, it really does help get the videos out there, and I truly, truly appreciate it.
So now we see if we can't get them to hopefully settle into this box. They don't seem to be settling onto any branches. So I guess that's good. We do appear at the top more than most swarms, but who knows? This is a bigger swarm than most swarms. Drinking a little of the water. Sugar water. And we'll fix them up with an inner cover later. Roll one. They're moved up on the hive stand, so they're a tad disoriented a little bit, but they're figuring it out.
See you all next week, and goodbye from Buzz Park.